Hello, everyone. I'm Virginia Amos. I'm a realtor with Coldwell Banker, and we are continuing our exploration of those people, businesses, and organizations that make Alexandria such a great place to live and work. And today is a perfect example. We are on our 20th episode of From Our House to Yours, and can't think of anyone better to have with us than Mary Wadland of the Zebra Press. So welcome, Mary.
Thank you, Virginia. I'm so flattered that you asked me to be on your show. I think it's incredible what you're doing, and I'm so glad to be here. I'm flattered. Thank you.
Well, thank you. And I love what you're doing. Anytime we recognize the good news, it's so refreshing. So we're going to talk about lots of things, but let's talk a little bit about how you got started. I must admit, when you first started the Zebra Press, I was really skeptical because just because that you were going to really do it in black and white, you know, that you were going to have a real live newspaper. And I have read newspapers since I was old enough to read. I still get daily subscriptions. And so I am thrilled that you have been successful.
Oh, thank you. Thank you. You know, I worked at the Gazette Packet for 10 years. And then I went to work with the magazine. And then I finished up working at the Alexandria Times in 2009. That's when I got the idea for Zebra. And 2009 happened to be the year, you'll remember this, when newspapers all over the country were going out of business.
Absolutely.
Family run, been in the family 167 years, you know, gone overnight. And I think during that same year, Newsweek was sold for $1. And so you're exactly right. From having been in the business, I was just too stupid to really think. I just had a dream, and
go for it.
I've often said it was like taking a dinghy into a hurricane. Is what I did, and but it's a classic case of just believing. I thought that the town could use something else, the room for us, and that we could provide a new voice. And celebrate some things that weren't being celebrated is really how Zebra came to be. So, and
a little bit larger format than most newspapers.
Yes, I came from the sales side of things. I was a history major in college, and I was a decent writer, but I was never a journalist. I was always the salesperson.
Okay.
Director of advertising at both places. And so what I looked at was what was missing in the marketplace. And so I thought, okay, if my paper is going to be laying on the same table, how do I make mine different? Well, at the time, that was 2010, color was a way to do that. Size was a way to do that. And the quality of paper stock was a way to do that. We print out a brighter white, so that the ads, and it's a heavier stock, so that the ads don't bleed. I was in the business for so long that people would call and say, we're not paying for our ad because you can't even read it. All the ink is on the next page. And I thought, I don't want to go through that. So that's why the paper looked different from the get-go. And I also needed to stay away from hard news. I didn't need to be in hard news. We had enough hard news being covered. So And people were starting to get news more and more on the websites and on their phones even. And I thought, okay, if something happens, it's going to be all over the place. And everybody's going to put all their attention on that. But what are we going to do about Johnny, who just won the spelling bee down at Mount Vernon, you know? And that stuff was being missed. And that's where, and what about writing about the businesses in this town? Nobody had ever written about the businesses in this town. If you wanted a story about your business, you know, it had to be on fire. Somebody had to be stealing from it, or you had to be closing it. If you were just prospering, you could forget having a story, because that was considered advertising. Because there wasn't considered real value. People didn't journalistic value in telling the story of a family-run business. But I disagreed and thought this town, more than any other, is run by mom and pops. the schools are filled with kids whose parents run mom and pop businesses.
Mhm.
So let's talk about that. And that was the whole difference what we started doing.
Well, it's no wonder that I like you, because that's exactly what I want to do, is talk about the small businesses, the small organizations
Right.
that people have created that really make Alexandria its own city, a great place to live and work, and just makes it vibrant. So
Right.
I really, appreciate what you've done. You have also kind of grown like a topsy weed.
We have grown. Well, again, I think we both had a sales background there. The other thing was, when I started the paper, I had no money. I didn't come get a huge loan or SBA loan or any of that stuff. My thought was, if this paper is good, it will become its own salesperson. The paper itself should sell itself. And for the longest time, we've never had a sales staff. It's just been me. But we now have a few extra salespeople that are on the team because it has grown. And now I can't always go out and see all the clients. But the paper itself has always been the salesperson. The phone rings when the paper comes out, because people who have never, and even today, there are people 10 years into this that have never seen the zebra. And they'll call up and say, "Oh, I'm just seeing your this paper for the first time," and they call. So it is its own best salesperson.
You can't ask for more than that.
That's right. So I'm really glad. I'm very proud of it.
But you've grown in other ways too.
We have mainly the internet.
Yes.
I didn't want anything to do with the internet because, like you said in the beginning, my plan was to print black and white and red all over, READ. That's our motto. Paper. It was going to be color, but that's why it's called zebra. It's a play on the old newspaper joke, what's black and white and red. And we thought that we would be a horse of a different stripe on the media landscape in Alexandria. And zebra was easy to brand. Again, it's the sales side of things. I didn't have money to put zebra logos on things, or, the Alexandria Clipper or whatever I wanted to. But zebra, black and white, I could go buy a scarf and I was branded. So that's, and zebra was easy to remember. It was, what's that thing, that zebra, what is zebra? And so it had its own buzz. And so I didn't want to have anything to do with the internet. That was partly because of my ignorance, generation, call it whatever you want to call it. I wasn't interested in Facebook. I wasn't interested in any of that. I saw people on their phones, even back in 2010, doing that kind of stuff. And I was like, what are you doing? What a waste of time. Well, I was wrong. I was very, very wrong. We put a Facebook page together back in, I want to say soon after we started, 2011, 2012. In fact, Wayne Houlihan, who you might know in the neighborhood, right. He was our social media man. He was the one that put together the page that you see today. And for the longest time, we had 400 or 500 followers, and we didn't post anything. He would post a couple of things every week for us, but I wasn't into it. In 2016, I got very sick. I was in the hospital. And it was during that time that I started looking at Facebook, and Facebook became my lifeline. And people communicated with me, and I realized how important it was. And we put all our efforts into social media. When I say that, it meant we started putting our stories up there, and we started focusing on it. So now we have 12 editors on our Facebook page.
Oh, my goodness.
We just hit 15,000. Well, we're about to hit 16,000 followers. So that too.
You can send them over to my.
Okay, we will. So
but you also have Z Press, or
we have the ZTV.
The ZTV.
Well, ZTV, I knew we had to get into. Well, we fumbled around with podcasts last spring, summer, and fall, because that was what everybody was doing, and we did some podcasts, but. Maybe it's me again. I don't listen to podcasts. I'm doing other things. So I couldn't really get into the podcast world, but we hooked up with David McClure, who is in the Delray area, who we were using his studio. And I went over and saw him one day, and I noticed he had 3 cameras running on the podcast studio while the podcast was taking place. And I said, have you been filming all of these podcasts? And he said, yeah, I've got all the footage. And I said, why don't we put these on video? I think that people would, I just think that would work. People would see it. They could listen to it. They could turn the volume down, put the headphones on, and we've got a podcast and a video at the same time. That's how that was all born. And then the quarantine happened, and David McClure, who's amazing, he's our technical genius, executive producer and director on the whole project. He was in his studio quarantined with all this amazing equipment. And he said, you know what? Let's start broadcasting. Let's start telling people what's going on with the city. Let's start putting the news out that way. So we started a nightly news program Monday through Thursday that has morphed into more like this. We're doing a lot of interviews. We do some highlights at the beginning, and Monday nights we have a music show. Every other Tuesday, our book review, our literary editor comes on and brings one of the authors that we have reviewed. We've had 80 authors that we have reviewed in the past 10 years, and there's some of them.
Are they local, or are you pulling?
They're all local. They're all people that have been in the DMV area who have written books. So every other week we've got Ralph Peluso, who is our literary editor, who's very, it's amazing, his memory about how he's able to sort of go through these books with these authors. It's fascinating. Even though I haven't read these books, I want to immediately go out and buy them. So he's doing that every other Tuesday. And then we're having guests like you, Virginia. We'd love to have you on our show and talk about real estate and start your own show and your amazing background. So,
well, thank you. You know, I think one of the interesting points here is, I think both of us, because I was telling you earlier that I had originally started going out with a videographer, Mark Ashley of Capitol Cinema, who also does work for you.
Yes.
And doing like a real setup with the lights and the background and the camera.
Right.
Which was great, but then the quarantine came along and had to, to move to something else. But I think what is showing through, because, if you go online and read about how to get started, they always talk about authenticity. Mm-hmm. And it's really in venues like this. I mean, you and I are about as authentic as it gets. We don't,
I hope so.
But as opposed to what we see on national news,
right,
which is, very scripted and very polished in certain timelines, and, where we have the ability to be hyper local and to talk about the things that interest us.
And it's an amazing venue that we can just turn it on. We have a reporter for us and a photographer named Lucelle O'Flaherty, who is amazing. She just takes that telephone of hers, wherever she is, she sees something. And in the old days, that was a reporter who was calling into their newsroom on a payphone. Just think how far we've come to say, hey, there's a guy down here and he's spray painting a building. You want me to write about it? No, now she puts it on and we're broadcasting. And that's been those videos get tons and tons of views.
Oh yeah. Or when they used to dictate stories into the telephone.
Yeah.
And that the person in the other end is typing away. Yeah.
That's right. Well, that's what I mean. It's changed so much. And I'm not changing it fast enough with it. I mean, I feel like I'm in a race all the time. Now like you're doing simulcast on Instagram and all. We're not even doing that. We're just doing straight ZTV live. Then we're trying to throw them up on our YouTube and our website, and we're kind of getting that all together. It's a lot of technical behind the scenes. And I think we're doing a great job on the show, but there's still a lot to be done. I mean, there's still a lot to keep going and going. And I never feel like we're done. We're never done.
Well, it changes constantly. And I don't think anybody can do it by themselves.
No,
I actually have, it tickles me to say this, but I have a social media manager.
Oh, well, that's a good thing to have. It is.
Who helps me with the editing of videos and getting them up on Instagram and that kind of thing.
Right.
Because I don't think the technology changes, and people much younger than I am are much better at it than I am.
Well, listen, I feel the same exact way. I'm just so proud that we're able to do what we're doing right this minute. So, yeah.
So, yeah. So, but you're also going to, for instance, live events like the Chamber of Commerce and film
Yes.
while you're there.
Right. And then we're also able to do some live streaming events, which is kind of because of David McClure. He's come on as a partner to ZTV.
Oh, nice.
And that ZTV, we have done a little over 60 shows, and it's very clear to me that the ZTV needs to be a community television, Alexandria community television based. That's the future of that, and that'll probably be a nonprofit division of the Zebra.
Mm-hmm.
We want to make it available for events. If there's a political debate, we want to be able to show up and do that. If there's Agenda Alexandria is doing something, we want to be able to help them. Whoever it is that's having something these days is going to need a lot of help. And it's not something you can just always do a Facebook Live on, because it's a microphone issue. If you're having a debate, you've got there's a lot of back behind the scenes kind of stuff where you need Mark Ashley and a David McClure on your team. And those are big investments. So we are going to try to make those investments for the community and be a resource. That's the whole point of Zebra. It was always to be share the good news. We're here if you need us. We report a lot about the charities in town. We have a whole section called Giving Back in every print edition. And in the schools, we have a whole, so the ZTV goes right into that, just folds perfectly into that. And like you say, that's really the method, the medium everybody's using these days. So that's what's going to be, I think, happening with ZTV.
Great. And David just wrote and said it's actually 64 shows. So
he would know. He would know.
He wants to correct that. So so that's nice. And absolutely, you are filling the role of what community newspapers used to be.
Well, I don't want to say disparaging things about anybody else, because the hard news is being covered by other venues more than us, probably. I mean, our print product comes out once a month, and our website is daily news. But we're not we're not in the trenches. I mean, I'm not a big politics person. Right. We're not in there with a lot of the city council. We'll report that they happened, but we're not in there giving you a lot of opinions or editorial. We're not driving anything. We're just reporting it to you, and we just hope that we're a bright spot on the media landscape in town, because those newspapers are important too, for the letter to the editors and the controversial things and taking risks that, quite frankly, I don't think we at Zebra need to take. Mm-hmm. So sometimes you won't see, you'll say, what does Zebra have to say about this controversial topic? And you can call me and ask me, and I'm going to say, we're not touching it with a 10-foot pole, because that's not our mission. That's not who we are. We don't need to fill every single news spot in town. And that's why I did think there was room for each of us to do the best that we can do with what we're supposed to be doing. Yeah. We're here to report good news.
I feel much the same way. I was interviewing Chief Brown the other day, and I told him ahead of time, I said, I'm going to talk about Alexandria.
Right.
We're not going to talk about anything else. We're just, because I thought that was important.
Right.
To really stay local and to really stay with what we know. That's
it. And that's what I know. And like you say about the authenticity, I would be wrong to all of a sudden say that I could cover these intense topics and be sitting at a school board meeting at night, late at night, like these other newspapers are doing a beautiful job at. That's not for us.
Yeah. And
we don't need to, because if people are interested in that news, it's already being covered. So what Zebra is doing, we think, is covering the news that wasn't being covered. But I have to give kudos to the other publications in town too, because a lot of them are now doing lighter news and more fun kinds of things. And so we have a lot of competition that we did not have 10 years ago.
Yeah.
So that's why we have to keep it fresh.
But you're also branching out now. You're going to have newspaper boxes, and you are going to stop the deliveries at home?
Well, this is a good question. When we first started, we've always had newspaper boxes. I want to say we have about 70, 75 boxes that are out on the streets, that have been out on the streets for a long time. And if you see them along the way, newspaper boxes apparently go through, I don't know what happens to newspaper boxes, but the boxes we put out 10 years ago look pretty bad. But what we're doing is rotating a lot of those back into refurbishing. And I bought, when the Washington Express went out of business recently, I bought a lot of their old boxes.
Mm-hmm.
And Yates Automotive, which now owns the Old Town Auto Body, which was on Fayette Street, now it's Yates Collision. We made a deal with them, and they took all the boxes I bought from the Washington Express, which was a Washington Post product that went out of business, or closed. They took all, I think there were 60 white boxes. They were all emblazoned with the Express. And I thought, how am I going to deal with this? And that auto body place treated them like cars. They sandblasted them all down. They did a beautiful paint job on them. So now we have 60 brand new boxes that are going out in addition to the regular fleet that we had. But the second point you bring up is that we always distributed 18,000 copies of our paper, went into newspaper boxes and bulk delivery in restaurants, grocery stores, drugstores, our customers, about 600 locations. You could always pick up a copy of the Zebra, but they go pretty fast. And then the other 12,000 copies have always been tossed on doorsteps and driveways in certain neighborhoods. Now, those neighborhoods have been getting the paper, and people have, if they've said they didn't want it, they've been taken off that list over the years. But there's an environmental concern with all of that.
Yes.
And so the quarantine has made me really think, we've been around long enough, 10 years, that if you want to get the Zebra, we think that you're going to subscribe to the Zebra if you want it at home, or you're going to pick it up around town. And we don't want to be throwing papers all over the streets anymore if people don't want us to be doing that. That's an old trick that you used to do years ago to show the world how many copies you were putting out, and it was a numbers game. But today it's a click game. Everything is measurable. We don't need to do that anymore. And people, I think, are going to be appreciative of that. I mean, we're still going to be putting out close to 30,000 copies, but now they're going to be all over the town, and because we keep running out. So we're probably going to be able to do a second run throughout the month, because people say they're gone. I mean, as soon as they come out, they're gone. But the good news is we're now going to have home subscriptions, which we really didn't have before.
Nice.
That's a good thing. And I'll plug it here. In the next 30 days, if you sign up for a home subscription, you're getting a custom Zebra mask, face mask.
Ooh, I'm signing up.
That's made locally by an Alexandria company, owned by Pat McMahon and Sue Kowalski, Delray Business Association president. Right. And their company is called Mantis Masks. It's mantismasks.com. And they have patent pendings on these incredible face mask designs. They sell them for $15. They're fantastic. So we went into business with them and thought I wanted to get Zebra masks, and I thought, why not order them from them? So that's what we've done. So
Great.
Home subscription and get your mask.
So I can go online and do that?
You can. You just go on to thezebra.org/subscribe, or you can just go on thezebra.org and find the subscribe button. And and it'll come up to the digital side where you can sign up for our newsletters and also the digital edition of the paper. And on the other side, if you'd like a home subscription, you just click the button and fill in all your information.
Okay. That also brings up another point. And everybody that I have talked to through this process, everybody has talked about the business associations in Alexandria and how supportive they have been through this entire quarantine.
Right.
Even if it was just a phone call to say, how are you doing? Are you okay?
Mm-hmm.
Maybe there was nothing they could actually do, but it was just that phone call to say, how are you?
Right.
And I don't know if all towns, all cities are like that, but
I don't think so, because I've talked to people who live in other towns. Alexandria is a one-off. It is a one-off. There's nothing like Alexandria. I mean, the support, like you say, business to business.
Yeah.
The restaurant community has been incredible. helping each other. I heard Bill Blackburn on your show the other day saying, we've stuck together. We've always stuck together. And if I need some limes, I can go to Tequila Poblano around the corner, knock on his back door, and he's going to give them to me. That was an emblematic statement he made.
Yes.
I think it's true of most every business in town.
Tristan Wright with Lost Boys Cider said the exact same thing, that he partnered with Tequila and Tacos.
Right. There you go. We started a Facebook group called Alexandria Curbside Dining, which I thought would be a thing to do to help people. There was how can you get the word out? Was the thing. How could we get the word out? Who was serving what and where and And so I thought, well, we'll do a Facebook group. And we did. And right away, people were boom, 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 boom. The only rule about the whole site is just be positive. Please be positive. So we have almost a little over 7,400 members. We started April 1. And we allow restaurants to come on there. They can post their specials. So again, when you talk about the associations, the Delray Business Association, the West End Business Association, the Old Town Business Association, and then also include the things like the Chamber of Commerce and Visit Alexandria.
Yes.
And those 5 organizations, and I know I'm probably missing somebody, have been an incredible resource. They've just put everything together. They've been there for everybody. They've been broadcasting people's news, telling people to go here and go there, and really got this curbside economy going.
And aren't we lucky?
Yes, we're very lucky. Very lucky.
It's just an incredible testimony to how people are willing to work together. And again, it's about promoting the good things. It's
about the good news. I have to say one other thing. The quarantine, all about how Alexandria is different. Everybody in Alexandria is affected by this quarantine. I know that we're in a pocket, an economic pocket that's that's better than other parts of the country. There's no question. But everybody in our community has been affected too. The kids at home, you may have lost your job. The servers have lost their jobs. Yes, there's unemployment, blah, blah, blah. But there was fear, great fear. What about the future? What are we going to do? And like you said, they came together. And when the Act for Alexandria group was going to throw their spring to action in the 1-day, 24-hour period, I have to say in the back of my mind, I kind of wondered, I thought, oh my gosh, I hope because they had broken records the year before. They had broken records, I think, at 2.1 million the year before. This year, 24-hour period of time, in the worst moments when we were worried about this the most, they raised $2.4 million in 24 hours in this town. At the same time that everybody was donating to every tip jar virtual tip jar that they possibly could find, restaurant worker funds, and help this business out, and help this charity out, and help this church keep the lights on, and whatever it was. People were giving money left and right all over the place, thinking, well, it's Alexandria. We have to help each other. It's all going to be okay. It's all going to be okay. And we feel the same way. We feel the same.
Good news.
We hope and pray. We hope and pray that the advertising will come back, because we're dependent on advertising. We are a for-profit organization, so we do not get grants. I did not get a PPP loan. None of that. We shut down because everybody's an independent contractor, more or less, that works with us. And so we just didn't qualify for a lot of things. So that's who we are, and we're just hoping. I'm sailing the ship, the little dinghy, back out into the storm, hoping that the sails are going to be there and the wind will take us, because it's a leap of faith is where we are. To be honest and authentic, that's exactly where Zebra is.
I agree with you. And I must, real estate has its own ups and downs, and you were a fellow Coldwell Banker agent for
I did
a period of time. But for me, it's a lot easier. My mental health is better. My disposition is better if it's got to be the glass is half full.
That's right.
Yeah.
You've got to have that attitude. And I know that mental health is a big issue right now. We've covered it twice on our ZTV. We've had people come in and talk about it. We're going to be talking about it some more. And Agenda Alexandria recently made it the top of their monthly panel. and it's easy for people like us to say it, right, Virginia, because we've lived our lives that way. Things came our way and we went, well, it's going to be better tomorrow. But it's real life and people are suffering. And that's why I think people like us have to be here to constantly say, hey, it's going to be okay. It's going to be okay. Look at this incredible good news over here. Look at this good news over here. And that's why we hope always, COVID or no COVID, that when you open a copy of the Zebra or you turn us on the website or on the ZTV, that you're going to leave a little happier, that you learned something and that you leave a little happier. And if that's all I do for Alexandria ever, I think that will be some kind of legacy that I've left.
Well, I think that is a perfect segue out.
Okay.
I don't know what else you could say after that. It's perfect. It's wonderful.
Okay.
It's a great legacy.
Well, I think
we're going to have to do this again sometime.
Well, I thank you very much for having me on. And we would love to have you on to the ZTV show or talk about launching your own show, because that's a fun thing. And lots of people are doing that. So that's worth talking about. Maybe we'll bring Mark Ashley on to talk about it, bring David on as a guest and maybe teach people how they can go about doing a streaming show of their own. I think
that would be great. Okay.
Yeah,
all right.
Show.
Well, gosh, thank you so much. This is going to be everybody who's out there listening. I hope you are watching. I hope you push your share button so that everybody can see this. It will also be up later on YouTube, on Instagram, on Twitter, on LinkedIn, on Nextdoor. We just plaster it everywhere.
Well, that's fantastic. Thank you so much, Virginia. Appreciate it.
Thank you, Mary. And we will be in touch.
All right. I hope so. Thank you.
Have a good weekend.
You too.
Okay. Bye.